Happy Resurrection Monday. Kingdom marriages. Why the delay? This is for the kingdom women. And I want to give you some insight into the sheer scope of what some of you are going to be walking into. So this long weekend, that's so cute. It was a prime opportunity for us to deal with personal matters. And what is a personal matter? More cleaning. We are the Mary Poppins of our own existence. Honest to goodness. I'm the Wizard of Oz. Dead set. So I've got a world-class breeding dog turning up in 3 weeks' time. African Bow Bull, the lion dogs. And this is all a part of God's plan for me. And with this, that dog arriving has also been a part of how I've needed to get organised. So the delays have been based upon being organised. And just the scope and the scale and the size and the bigger picture, it's just almost unfathomable, right? Organising. It's about being organised, and that's the one thing that our beloved Saint Germain will give to us is the gift of becoming systematically organised, completely and utterly, absolutely. And our Lord Jesus Christ has been taking us for a very long walk, a deep cleaning, and it's been happening psychologically. We've been, we'd be chaste anyway, but we've had no option to be chaste. And you've got to have a look at the reason, the season, the why of what's going on. Because I'm not saying it's a conundrum, it's just we weren't ready for you. And it's not because we aren't emotionally available. It's not that. It's just we had to get shit sorted. And I'll give you an example. The boundary fence on this property that I live on, that's 7 kilometers in length. And that's the smallest property that we've got. And at the moment, there's a factory in Stockyards, and it was a dairy. But off the Stockyards, there was a containment pen that needed to be built. And a lot of other, that containment pen, it's not just a normal fence. All of the gate posts and strainers, you have to dig 4-foot deep holes. And so the holes that had to be dug, the top of these hills are aquifers, and aquifers are rock basins essentially, and are rock tables. And it takes some mighty effort to dig a 4-foot deep hole when you've got foot round boulders that you've got to extract, like pulling teeth. And so last week I gave everything to it, and I got all the holes complete, and I got the posts in. And then because of the water tables and because of the rain and everything else that we've had recently, there's a conundrum that will present itself as a future conundrum always and in all ways. So to be able to deal with that problem appropriately, I had to use 2 separate mixes of concrete with the posts that went in the ground to ensure that they're adequately prepared for the fact that that would be an ongoing issue, because it seems that God has rejuvenated the underground basins for water. Anyway, so I mean, I've worked hard. I haven't stopped working hard. I mean, doing that pump site that I needed to do last year, it's unfathomable that one person could have done it. And then to back that straight up, literally the day I finished it, left there to come back here. That's another place I got to look after. To come back here and then do the boundary fence. And then after the boundary fence, get to this containment yard. But then this property, like, it's the gatekeeper for this nation's major services and all this other stuff that I've had to go through in order to be able to even touch the ground in the first place with a machine. Anyway, just pressure. And then not only that, we've had floods recently. And with the floods, on one of the other properties that has it's next to a major service, one of our dams is broken, and that's a major issue. And so tomorrow, see, I'm just not working today because I've got to have a break. Tomorrow I've got to go up there and get that matter rectified because the cost, see, for me, they're just sums. But some of the sums that we're talking about when it comes to like what it will cost to not fix it, you know, like when they say this, like the pressure will get to a person, the pressure doesn't get to me anymore. It doesn't matter how much money is involved because God trains you to be on your A game constantly. And we very rarely lose. We may take a little bit longer to get the win, but we will always get the job done. So, yeah, it was just like yesterday, I heard the song by Cypress Hill. So you want to be a rock star, big house, 5 cars, coming up in the world. Don't trust nobody, looking over your shoulder constantly. This jealousy that people have, this wishful thinking, this I hate you because you have something that I don't have, that has to stop. If I'll just giving you an example, this is just recently on a couple of occasions, I've been walking along minefields that I've had to be directly responsible for, and to disrupt them, $1 million a day. So for anyone that's jealous of the lifestyle of what God grows us into being able to be responsible for, $1 million a day, that's the minimum for something that I was dealing with, $1 million a minute. Like really just, now, you know, we've been getting stretched and grown, and we've been, you know, we're stoic. Like, if it's not, you know, I'm not saying this to, like, you know, talk myself up or anything. If we're any harder, we'd rust. You know, we're chaste. We are focused. We're diligent. We are very bold. We have to deal with matters head on. We're very compassionate at the same time. I mean, we essentially, God has grown us into, we will be the next world leaders, and it is what it is. And we deal with haters and jealousy and the spiritual warfare and all the other garbage. But the long and short of it is for any of you that could you deal with the pressure of losing $1 million a day? Could you deal with that? Or would the pressure of that give you a sense of anxiety and or depression, get your heart rate pumping to the point where you can't cope anymore, and then you just realize that you can't stand in your own boots because not only was it the pressure, you then begin to recognize that to be a heavyweight is to be heavy duty. Could you actually understand that you've got to put the effort in to actually be able to ground yourself, to be able to cope with that type of responsibility and not flop? Could you, you know, could you grab that? The pump site, that I built last year. The pump that I put in, it's about 3,500 litres a minute. I mean, it's not the biggest in the world, but here's a great example. With great power comes great responsibility. That's ultimately what I want to be talking about right here, and it'll get back to the reason for why there are the delays. Power points on walls. A 10 amp power point is normally what you would have for televisions, fridges, stoves and cooktops. You'll probably go 15 amp, but what am I trying to get at here? 10 and 15 amps typically pulls up most household power points. That pump, so it pulls about 160 amps. Sorry, no, wait up. No, that's when I had the two pumps running. Sorry, 160 amps with the two. So it's a 200 amp circuit breaker. So with the two pumps running, it was 160 amps, but with the new pump that I put in, so I didn't have to have two running at once, 110 amps. It was rated at 130, so there's a bit more room in it for a bigger pump, but 110 amps. Now, a fridge, well, a pump motor's 2 to 3 amps. A fridge maybe like 1 to 2. So for that motor to kick over, it takes over 100 fridges worth of power just to bring it online. Mind-blowing, isn't it? And that's the world that God has, over time, graduated us into. We're a different type of people, kingdom women. We are. We are the top of our game. We're the kings of the castle. I mean, where I'm located, it's the best in Australia, where I live. You're not going to get a better location than where I'm at. It's humbling, but it's with the great power comes great responsibility. It's what we had to go through. It's the sacrifices we had to make. It's what we gave up to get to where it is that we are at. And just recently, so I'm going to tie it all back together. So after that pump site, after coming back here and doing 7 kilometres of boundary fence, barbed wires top to bottom, nearly bled out doing that one, 5 foot tall, and then getting these posts in for this containment pen, and also having that dam that needs to be dealt with, plus I've got a pivot that needs to be built, plus other fences that need to be done. That's just up there. But not only that, we've got a factory, a dairy. So that's just on these. I'm just trying to think just what I've been working on lately. And some buildings have up to 30 rooms. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we're dealing with about 18 or 19 buildings. Like, just most people couldn't deal with one within their life, and this is the responsibility that we've been handed. And everything is full to the rim, and we've got to get it all organised and actually get it to the point where it's systematic and workable. And you're asking the question, why has he not showed up yet? The long and short is, I'm waiting for God to give the go-ahead and say, now. I'm waiting for the now. Because I'm like my puppy dog here, unless I tell him to go, he sits. We are submitted. God's the master. So we're waiting for God to say, now, approach her, do what you need to do. But then not only that, look, we've had the spiritual warfare that we've had to go through at the same time, whilst having to deal with all this heavyweight responsibility as well. And I've had confirmations beyond all reasonable and unreasonable doubt, knowing who my kingdom partner is. And I think it's time. But this is what I'm trying to say is, like, it is time, but I want to explain to you now why it is time. that dog has really helped me to focus more on getting personal things dealt with, because outside of looking after the empire, you've got to get your home and your sheds and everything else organised. I've got a gym, and is what it is. So after, on the weekend, I have it's a building outside of the house where I live, and I've got it set up so that I can have pets in it. And with these floods recently, I thought I would be kind to the chickens, because they like to hang around the dogs. I thought I'd put a little bowl of their food inside that building out of the weather, so that they didn't need to get saturated to eat. So the flood, it's damaged things in its own way. Anyway, my long weekend was getting that room organised so that I could get the floor levelled, so that I could actually get things tidied up properly so that it's functional, to be able to use it properly for storage, and also be able to have it to house pets how I would like it to house pets. And that's been a bigger part of my greater plan. And so the answer to fixing that issue is plastic tubs. Hey, bud? I've got another cat up here at the factory. The cats like staying up at the factory. Now, last night was interesting, quickly. There's no rabbits left. The cats have got the rabbits. I just hope they'd get the bloody rats. That would be a good start, because rats have been my conundrum at the house. So on the weekend, I was looking at the cause and effect. If it's not in plastic, rats will get it. So the lesson that I've learnt since being here in the Highlands is, if it's not in plastic, the rats will get it. Rats need an environment to thrive in. And not that I have a lot of garbage, and a lot of those tubs that I did buy on the weekend aren't being used at the moment, but I've got them for future use, and there's reasons in that. I bought 25 tubs, but that's not to do with the other, I think, 150 that I got for the other buildings. Tubs and labels are the key to organising sheds and storage rooms and places where you need to keep gear. And so this weekend, after I got that room cleared out, and I got the stuff organised into tubs, and now I've got it so that today I've just got I'm not going to lay a slab in there. I've got some cool gravel. I'll just go and get the machine and take a bucket of it and use that to level the floor, and just put, I've got heaps of carpet, so I'll just lay a fresh carpet down, and the animals will have a level floor with a carpet. It'll be good. And means I can just rip the carpet out on a later date and air it out, or burn it. But getting those tubs was the answer to the next part of the conundrum for why I now need my kingdom spouse. It was a matter of time. I couldn't see it until... See, it's like God has a maze that we're going through, and it just wasn't time. So, whilst I was cleaning out this building, I don't want to go into why things have meaning and the relativity, how one thing's connected to the next. We don't need to worry about that. Just for me, it makes sense. Why now is the time? Turns out that because I was so generous with the chickens, I was feeding a rat. I didn't know it. But not just one rat. Turns out there was a number in there. And I didn't realise. I thought it was my dogs. No, it was rat piss, which was making their house smell a little bit. So everything in that shed now is in plastic tubs, with a lid on it. And the only reason why rats have a need to hang about is if there is something fluffy or a tight space where they can collect the fluffy stuff and then feel comfortable within it. So I've dealt with the congestion issue, and with this, it turns out there were, how do I say, a bit of collateral damage. So the collateral damage has, like you're looking for the ups and the downs. So I had to lose something in order to gain the next thing. Turns out that all my motorbike gear, boots, helmet, wet weather gear, jacket, gloves, fucking chewed by rats. All of my camping gear, except for my swag, chewed by rats. Big marquee, rats gone. I had seeds and whatnot for gardening. Rats got the lot. And I sat down and I had a look at the list, and I was like, so the only way, because the weather's been fickle, to move forward is if I'm going to do anything homegrown, got all the equipment. Like you got your little push rotary hose. I've got a 2 meter wide rotary hoe. Play up a goddamn paddock and put crops in it if you want. But for gardening, for home self-sustainability, the next step for me is get a greenhouse and start self-sufficiency, if that's the path to take. So you've got the greenhouse and the self-sufficiency. You've got the camping gear. So and we've got the motorbike gear. So we're talking recreation and home gardening. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, I've come along this far and I've got all of my buildings that have particular things in it, all organized, all stored properly. I think I'm absolutely established. Anything from here, I'm talking like properly established, hey. Anything from here on, it's just cream. But I've crossed a line with being established. And so the focus on becoming established, that's not there. So I'm not saying it's a burden because it's been quite joyful doing it, but that's not a concern anymore. And the next focus really is, it's time to build a greenhouse. It's time to build a gardening area. I've got the dog turning up. That dog forced me to get that shed tidied up. Out of tidying that shed up, I now know that I need new camping gear, picnicking gear, new motorbike riding gear. Might get the jet skis fixed up as well. But we're talking about gardening and recreation, the two things that I want to enjoy with my wife. So, like you're sick of doing it on your own. I'm sick of that, but now I'm ready. I know that I'm personally ready, and I now know that this is why God is going. It is time. But please just appreciate the efforts that we've had to go through to get things organized so that you can just turn up. Because what am I talking about with these other storage tubs? You're going to have an excess of shit as well. So we've had to get prepared to make sure that you've got a place to put stuff as well that's an overflow of what you've got. So then we can deal with that on a later date as well, because none of us need to live in mess. So what was this weekend all about? It was preparing storage space for my kingdom spouse, for my wife. It was getting my garden shed cleaned out from a flood and rat plague, and realizing that what the rats ate was actually what I kind of need to replace, and I'd rather replace that with my wife present. So I'm not saying it's goods that are sort of making this decision, but it's just the representations of how those goods fit into the bigger picture. So I'm not saying as men it's about 1 + 1 = 2. We're trying to do the equations. But with the equations, it has summed up and it makes sense now. It is now time. I've got a new pup turning up. It would be wise for her to turn up now because he's going to be a 70 to 80 kilo monster. So she needs to be there from the get-go. She has storage space. And what we now get to decide is, what is our sports and recreation going to be? How are we going to be self-sufficient with gardening? Why is the dog turning up? Because He's the guard dog, but also to look after the chooks. So it's gardening and chickens, self-sufficiency. You see how it's like the whole hunter and gatherer, so I've been getting the whole lot built for her to be able to turn up, and now it's time to fill her part and fill her role. So I'm now ready, and it would never have happened until I got to this point right now. And God's sort of going, it's on the table now, it's about to be released to you. So what I would be expecting is God will create the appropriate time where I will come face to face with her, and I would be hoping for now. Yeah. And with that, it is what it is. But until then, and if it's not then, we'll just have to wait a little bit longer because there's obviously reasons for it not to be there, but I'm waiting for the sign. But with that sign, it was never there, and I now appreciate that it wasn't there, because why would you want to come to something that's not finished? It's like, I'm saying, like turning up when a house is half renovated, or turning up when a job's half done. Yeah, you could do that, but we would like to, nothing's ever going to be finished and complete, but we would like to think that if you're going to turn up, there's enough space for you to be able to come along, put your gear, settle in, and then we get on the road together. So what are we saying? Or what am I saying that I know that other men will be saying as well? We've been making space for you to come and fit into our environment. And for myself personally, what has just been lost was exactly what I would like to go through the joyful journey of recollecting, motorbike gear. It's good, isn't it? Don't worry about that. The guitar gear is all good though. Anyway, the music gear, the drums, the guitar gear, all that stuff. Rats didn't get that. They got the bloody guitar gear, the motorbike gear though. So, yeah. Outdoor recreation and gardening has been destroyed by rats, and everything's fallen into place where now I've created the space for you to be able to turn up with your gear. We can get it organized, get it put away. We can actually settle in, and then be able to get on with our lives together and begin to look at the bigger picture. So there's going to be a transition period, and without us being organized, it just wouldn't happen. So there we have it. Why the delay, Kingdom ladies? We had a maze to walk through to organise chaos that needed to be turned into law and order. We had to organise stuff. And for myself personally, like, that's no simple thing. Some of us have a lot to look after, a lot. And it's taken consistent dedication and commitment towards a singular goal, which was to be able to function properly through the lot. Cleanliness is but next to godliness. Be able to access things at the tips of our hands, because we want low maintenance, minimal input, so that we don't have to keep going back to it and fiddling with it every 6 months, because we've got a life to build, and the last thing we need to do is worrying about what it is that we've already got. So we had to get our shit sorted. You like that? And it's been dealt with, right? So circumstantially take this into your own scenario and see how potentially who you are supposed to be coming together with, they will have needed to have got their shit sorted as well. There it is. We've been getting our shit sorted. You like that? It's not shit though. It's just getting our stuff in order and organized. We're making space so that you can come into our life and we can coexist free of the clutter. There it is, ladies. May this be a timeless message, and maybe I'll look back on it in a year's time and go, yep, there we are. You'll know when it's time. I now know that it's time because my shit is organised. I've got my stuff where it needs to be so that we can get on with getting on. Have a lovely day. Bye for now. May Jesus bless your life and your marriage and your children. And look, I'd like to think that who I've become and who I am becoming is definitely going to be a part of what has destroyed generational curses. And I'd like to pass these good cleaning habits on to my kids, because I don't like living like a pig. Bye for now.